All right, let's get right into it. We're going to break down one of the most pivotal and frankly intensely human stories ever told. It's a story about a final test of loyalty and resolve, all taking place in a quiet garden right before everything is about to change forever. This is the Vigil at Gethsemane.
And boom, this is where our story kicks off. Not with some grand prophecy, but with a confession of just profound human anguish. With these words, Jesus immediately sets this somber, dramatic tone. He's plunging us and you directly into the emotional heart of his final hours of freedom.
So the scene is set in a place called Gethsemane, most likely an olive grove. Jesus shows up with his disciples, but as the weight of the moment starts to press in, he takes only his inner circle. That's Peter, James, and John, a little deeper into the garden with him for what's about to become a very lonely vigil.
Now here's what's so powerful about this moment. In his time of extreme distress, he doesn't ask for some huge miracle or a grand gesture. Nope, he asks for something much more fundamental from his closest friends.
That's it. That's the whole request. So simple, so clear. Stay with me, be present, keep watch. And this one simple instruction, well, it becomes the absolute centerpiece of the story and, tragically, the central point of failure for his companions.
So as the vigil gets underway, the focus shifts. Leaving those three disciples behind, Jesus goes a little farther off by himself to pray. And this is where we get a front-row seat to this raw internal conflict between his divine mission and his very human fear of what he knows is coming.
And the way he prays is just startlingly vulnerable. He uses the word Abba, which is this intimate Aramaic word for father, kind of like saying daddy. He's basically asking, is there any other way out of this? Any way to avoid the suffering, this cup that's right in front of me?
But then, right after that raw plea, you get this. This is the turning point of his prayer. Despite his deep personal desire to escape the pain, he ultimately submits. It is this incredible moment of resolve, right in the face of absolute dread.
So you have to imagine this. He's just gone through this intense, soul-crushing struggle. He goes back, probably seeking just a little bit of comfort, some support from his friends, and he finds them asleep. The sense of disappointment and isolation must have been just crushing. And he singles out Simon Peter, the one who was always claiming he'd die for Jesus. And the question isn't just frustrated, it's so personal, so poignant. Couldn't you just stay awake for 1 hour? It just highlights how completely they failed him in this one critical moment.
And then Jesus just nails this universal human problem, right? He basically diagnoses their condition. He gets that they have good intentions, their spirits are willing, but he also points out their human limitations. Their flesh is weak. And this isn't just some excuse. It's this deep insight into how fear and just plain exhaustion can paralyze us, even when we really want to do the right thing.
And get this, it wasn't just a one-time thing. This whole heartbreaking cycle repeats itself. 3 times Jesus goes off to pray in agony, and 3 times he comes back to find his closest friends fast asleep, completely failing to give him the one thing he asked for. 3 times.
But on that third return, the tone changes completely. There's no more pleading. There's this sense of grim finality. The time for watching is over. The moment of betrayal is here, and he knows he's facing it alone. Enough! The hour has come.
And right on cue, just as he says this, the quiet, somber vigil is just shattered. Out of the darkness comes Judas, one of his own 12 disciples, and he's leading a crowd armed with swords and clubs.
What's so chilling here is just how methodical this betrayal is. This isn't some spontaneous act of anger. It's a prearranged, calculated plan. Judas uses a signal, a kiss, a universal sign of affection and respect, and twists it, weaponizes it into the ultimate act of treachery to point Jesus out to the mob.
In all the chaos that follows, one of Jesus' followers lashes out. He draws a sword and actually cuts off the ear of the high priest's servant. It's this brief, totally futile act of resistance that just highlights the tension and confusion of the moment.
But Jesus, he stays calm. His response isn't about fear or fighting back. It's just pure logic. He points out how absurd the whole situation is. He basically says, I was teaching peacefully in the temple every day. Why are you coming for me now, in the middle of the night, armed like I'm some kind of violent revolutionary?
Okay, so Jesus has been seized. The focus now shifts to the immediate aftermath. How is everyone who, just hours before, had sworn their loyalty to him, how are they going to react?
And the answer is just brutal. The text is so stark, so absolute. It doesn't say some or most. It says everyone deserted him. When faced with real danger, all those promises just vanished. The very disciples who were supposed to be watching, even Peter, they all just fled into the night, leaving him completely and utterly alone.
And just when you think the story has hit its tragic low, the narrative throws in one last, really strange and memorable detail. A mysterious figure just kind of appears and then disappears in the chaos.
I mean, listen to this. It's such a bizarre and specific detail. As the armed men try to grab this young follower, he literally wriggles out of his only piece of clothing and just runs off naked into the darkness. It's this unforgettable image of pure panic and that desperate instinct for self-preservation.
And the thing is, the text never tells us who he was. Some scholars think it might be the author of this gospel, Mark himself, throwing in a little personal cameo. But really, it's an unresolved mystery, and it adds this final layer of intrigue to a story of total abandonment.
So we're left with this incredibly powerful story of anguish, failed friendship, and chilling betrayal. And it really forces us to ask ourselves a tough question. What does this intense human drama actually reveal about the true nature of our loyalty when it's put to the ultimate test by fear?